Well, it's wonderful to be with you here this morning at this beautiful place. Sunshine and hail, we've got everything. So what I'd like to do today is just share some of my perspective on how I think about customer success, and I'd like to be a little controversial at times. And we're gonna have a little bit of a fireside chat about halfway through, and we'll open it up to audience questions as well. So I am the CEO of Helpshift. Helpshift is a digital customer service platform. We sell to B2C companies, mostly enterprise, but also to some SMB. We handle tons of volumes because a lot of our customers are gaming companies. We believe that messaging is the future, the way consumers are going to interact with their brands. And we think messaging is also a perfect container for automations like AI and bots. So with that, I thought I'd just talk a little bit about my background. I've been in the CRM industry since 1996. For those of you old enough in the audience, I was at a company called Siebel Systems, which was on-prem customer success software, sales software, etc. Then I went into Salesforce in 2006. So I've been in the SaaS world for quite a while now with 3 different companies. When I think about my experience with customer success and our go-to-market team at Salesforce, we were inventing a lot of things as it was all unfolding and happening because we were really the first company of any size and scale to deal with SaaS-related issues. One of the things I think back on as far as customer success goes at Salesforce is 2008 when everything in the economy just went to hell. And we decided that we needed to double down on our customers, that our growth around new business would probably somewhat falter in this new economic climate where, we didn't know how many of our small businesses were going to go out, our small business customers were just going to go out of business, and how many of our mid-market customers would really hunker down, and that left us to focus a lot on the enterprise. We really tripled down on the enterprise at this time, and we said we're going to do everything we can to make sure we had high renewal rates for our customers. At Optimizely, I went there when they were about 65 million in ARR, headed for 100. I faced there a ton of go-to-market issues. So I was running sales, marketing, customer success, BD, and all the things that surround it. Our churn was really out of control. It was sort of in the high 60s. And, it was a very competitive market where Google was coming in and kind of gobbling up our SMB business. So what do we want to do? We had to get to the enterprise quickly, and we had to retool everything we were doing on the go-to-market side to make that happen. And I'll share some of the learnings as I go through this. And now at Helpshift, I joined as CEO 2 years ago, about 7 million. We've tripled since then. And there it was to create the go-to-market. It wasn't really to fix the go-to-market. It was just to take something that was small and had a lot of promise and put the right things in from the get-go. So one of the things that I realized when I was at my first SaaS company, which was Salesforce, was that there's this mismatch between customer expectations and our ability to serve from a cash perspective. So what do I mean by that? If you think about sending a customer to do a 3-year, $333,000 deal, a $1 million deal over 3 years, they're thinking, I'm just committed $1 million to you, so therefore, I want to be served like a top customer, a customer that's spending that much money. Well, in reality, when you think about the cash coming into the business, the worst of all situations would be they pay you monthly, so the money coming into the business kind of is mismatched with the expectations of the customer. So what do you do about that? Well, a couple things. One is you definitely want to do annual contracts paid in advance. Hopefully everybody's doing that. If you're not doing it, do it, do it, do it. Customers are used to it. It used to be hard to do this, but it's not so hard anymore. And multi-year deals, so give yourself that runway. Now, when I think about how we spend money in the business, so the cash that does come in, you want to accelerate your cash, right, is that there's just a law of the way we operate SaaS businesses. There is north of 30% going to the sales organization, and today maybe even more of that for a lot of you, because we're in a growth economy, so everybody's like tripling down on sales capacity. You've got your cost to serve, you've got your tech support costs, you've got marketing expenses, and then you're trying to squish G&A. Everybody's trying to squish G&A. And that leaves about 8 to 10%. In that range, probably you're spending on customer success operations. Hopefully also, as quickly as possible, you get your professional services teams onto P&Ls, so you decide, as a business, are you going to break even or try to make money on that? Probably depends on where you are in your journey as a company, whether you're small, medium, or large. So with that, there is a reality that sets in, which is the sales org tends to be triple the size of the success org. And it is my strong belief that the success of customer success really sits with your sales partnership. And I think as success leaders, you have to invest in this relationship, spend time on it, go to dinner with your counterpart, really get locked and loaded, and especially with the CEO too. I will do this. It's something I've done in the past, is have kind of a quarterly dinner, sales leader, success leader, CEO, and we talk about go-to-market. Maybe the marketing person's there, maybe not. Just depends on how much you rely on run rate business, where marketing's really involved. But if you have an enterprise business, I'd strongly suggest that. Now, I also think that it is with sales kind of whether or not a customer is going to succeed or fail. This is maybe a little bit controversial, but there's so much sitting in the hands of the sales organization. Do they get the right start? Do you incent your sales teams to include services, onboarding packages? Are they delivered through the partner? Are they introducing the right partner to the customer? And the other bit here too is that in these times where the switching costs from one SaaS company to another, I think, are rapidly becoming easier for a customer, you have to set outcomes within the sales process that the success team is going to pick up on the back end. And today, modern applications are not ingesting a lot of data. It used to be like if we own the data, we own the customer forever. I would challenge you and say today it's the workflow, the process that you automate that makes your customers sticky. Data now is stored maybe in a place or two, maybe even in the data warehouse, or in very operational systems. But in CRM systems today, a lot of it is not stored at rest. So it's the workflow that is so important that you get ingrained. And that's got to start with the sales process. I heard Gillian talk a little bit about how she has SEs reporting to her in the success org, and I like the customer experience kind of title to what she was talking about, and I agree. Right now I have my SEs reporting into customer success. I might make the change because I've got a high-powered CERO, and he may just go like, I need this, and I might succumb. I don't know. But I do love the alignment from pre to post, and just that insurance policy that you have on the pre-sales process to make sure that there is a good, warm handoff, and that's just a given these days. So what are the few things that you could do to align your sales organization for success? I think, because I've been in sales a lot of my career, I should have probably mentioned that in my intro, that compensation is kind of the way salespeople operate. It's, am I getting paid for this? And people will fight for $500 or $50. It's amazing. And the more you can align compensation strategy to the outcomes you want, the better. So ask yourself, are you going to give AEs a renewal quota? Are you going to pay them on renewals? Are you only paying on net new business? If you are, who's managing growth? And get real strong alignment as to how the sales organization is going to stay engaged with your customer. I think one of the things that we all know is that loss of relationship is one things that's nagging when you lose a customer, right? It's the thing that is the easiest to fix. The thing you're like, oh my God, like how did this happen? And I think it happens because the sales organization doesn't feel responsible for the ongoing relationship within the customer. My success team gets kind of in the onboarding, in the day-to-day of making sure the customer's using the product. So who is maintaining that executive, commercial, procurement relationship? And a lot of times the salespeople just go away. And it is very hard, I think, for the success team to manage all of those relationships. So this is why I was like, double down on sales. They're triple the size of you. Leverage the heck out of them. One of the things that we do at Helpshift is we measure meaningful interactions. It's kind of a top of the funnel metric around customer conversations and engagements. Before an opportunity, maybe I always hear salespeople go, it's not ready to be an opportunity. And I was like, get in Salesforce. We need the pipeline. I want eyes on it. So meaningful interactions are ways that we say, have you talked to people that matter? And I think on the success side, for us, we track, like, have the AEs had meaningful conversations in the install base? Because they're twice or triple, quadruple incentive to have net new business conversations, but we definitely want them to be rocking and rolling and talking to the customer. So I'm a big fan of renewal quota as part of the overall comp plan for AEs. Sometimes it's hard to administer if you don't have enough renewals coming up. So maybe you think about other ways, meaningful conversations maybe being one of those. My next big, I think, revelation as a CEO is that product today is so engaged with engineering. Back in the old days, product people were kind of unicorns. They were out in front of the customer as much as they were working with engineering. I think with agile development, product people have kind of pushed back more towards engineering, and the rapid pace that we deliver products has made that so. I have given my product people customer visit quotas, so they have to get in front of customers. And this is where I'm like, product shows up. I'm really hounding my engineering leader to take on more of the operational things that product people kind of fall into, and saying that I need my product people in front of customers. The market's moving so quickly. We're shipping products so fast. Our roadmap is, we have so much innovation every quarter. So I need the product people just ninjas on the competition. They need to hear from customers, prospects. I want them in prospect meetings too. So when I say customer, it's kind of loosely between pre and post sales. But if you don't have that, force it. And, just sort of saying, here are the top 10 requests from the customer success team for product innovation. No, it needs to be a lot more thoughtful than that. And I really want our product people to understand what is the cost to serve of some of these features and fix them. When I was at Salesforce, our Outlook integration was 1/3 of all customer support issues. And, we kind of got on it. It probably still, I've been gone from running the Sales Cloud product for a long time, but probably still an issue. It was a hard one to fix. And one of the last things I want to talk about was customer marketing. I like Gillian's chat on that. I am a big, strong believer that success should own customer marketing. My view on marketing is that it is the execution arm for a lot of things. They create the processes, the containers, the frameworks, and then content and other stuff comes through them and they help deliver. When you think about the pyramid, right? Like if sales has most of the headcount in the company and success has the next most, and engineering being not part of go-to-market, but marketing has far, far fewer. So how in the world does one person in marketing manage every customer? It just is really hard to make those numbers work. So I think they help with the process. The customer marketing sits in customer success, and then they help execute events, or on and on and on. But I do think it's one of those things that is super important, no matter if you're small, medium, or large. This is a headcount that we're going to invest in. We have like 7 people in marketing, and this will be my 8th hire. So super important to get this right from the very beginning. With that, I'm going to ask Julie Persofsky to come up. She's going to manage Q&A, and then we're going to open up to questions, right? So Julie, can introduce yourself?
A quick round of applause for Linda, because that was pretty insightful here. Thank you. When I talked to Linda last night, she was saying, I'm going to be controversial, I'm going to say some things. So one thing, as per Linda's request, is she wants us to answer questions that you all have. So I have a few questions that I've jotted down based on what you talked about and some perspective I have. I run the East Coast for Winning by Design. We are a sales and customer success consulting and training organization. So I really head up East Coast and customer success. Lots of interesting thoughts around there, but then I do want to open it up to the floor for the last few minutes. So if you have a question, get ready, because I'll call on you, and then get your voices ready to shout out a question that we can answer up on stage. So one thing, I think we have a lot of customer success leaders and executives in the room who have big career aspirations. And so you're certainly an inspiration. You did come up through the sales track, but have some customer success experience. Any advice for a CS leader who might want to be a CRO or a CEO one day, what their career path, like what skill sets they need to develop?
Sure. So when I was at Salesforce, I managed kind of half the sales org. It was all of the non-account executives and their managers, was everything else. It was sales operations, sales development, overlay sales people, industries, SCs, like a whole lot of stuff. So for you guys, when you're managing multiple facets of the success org, so implementation and tech support or whatever, I think that's good experience, because you have to know multiple disciplines. I think what's made me successful as a CEO so far is I have had lots of broad experiences, and then once I had just done a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do on the sales side, I thought to myself, what am I missing? And a lot of great people that I knew in the industry said, well, while you are technical, I started as a developer and then as an SE for a long time, you haven't shipped a product. So I would say, if you want to be a CRO, there's certainly a path to do that, because you're squarely in the middle of owning revenue. Like, I would say, try to own a number. That renewals number is an important one. A growth target is another good one. So owning a number and proving that you can deliver a number will help you get to the CRO way. If you want to do CEO, maybe go think about working in the products area. For me, it was like a GM job where I got to run sort of everything, almost like a mini CEO within the company, and that was great. And I treasure knowing how to run engineering and product marketing and management and like the service and all those things.
I had a GM role. It was managing engineers is very challenging and it will definitely flex your muscles. So that's a really good point. Yeah. You just said something. CS, own a number. Totally. I wholeheartedly agree. We've heard Dave talk about that. It is critical. And you're responsible for so much revenue.
More than the sales side a lot of times. I mean, if they jointly own it.
All right, are you ready? But you also just said up there that you should rely on your sales team because they're 3 times as big. So can you clarify a little bit around that? So sales is so much bigger. We need to lean on them for revenue, but CS has so much responsibility and own and control so much of that revenue. How do you
I
draw
think
the line?
It's just, to me, it's a law of numbers, right? It's like everything, I think, in the SaaS world is just staying on top of those customers and making sure that you have good relationships, not single-threaded, but multi-threaded. So I just think, like, if the CS team is working super hard with 2 or 3 people, why not make that a party of 5 and get the sales team to, be talking to 3 more people? Because that way, when someone leaves. I mean, today the tenure for everyone, right? It's so short. Everyone's like, I've been here 3 years. I need to do something else. I've mastered everything I could do at this company. I have a lot of that going on, but and your customers are the same way. So how do you just make sure that you've tripled down? And it doesn't mean that it has to be a $2 million customer or $20 million customer. Our largest churn is kind of happening in the 30 to 150K range. So I can't get enough customer success time on those because they carry like a $2 million book of business. So I have to engage the sales org just to have conversations with them.
Okay, so what you're saying is lean on sales to help continue to be multi-threaded in your account, so that way you're sort of
instead of an
hedging.
Army of 100, now you have an army of 400.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's interesting. So you're saying, okay, have your sales compensation, because we know this, right? They're going to do what they're compensated on around renewals and retention, but it's really hard as a salesperson. You've done sales, I've done sales. How do you make sure you get into a cadence, right? You start your day, you open up your LinkedIn, your Salesforce, like you get into this routine. I'm going to cold call, I'm going to write this proposal. All of a sudden it's like, shift gears, have an executive meeting to talk about your relationship and how it's going. So how do you get your sales team to keep their quota, keep driving net new revenue, but also do that maintenance executive conversation?
Well, hopefully everyone's shipping new product. And I look at customers as leads. And if you have a great customer relationship, you have a great lead, an A+ lead. So if you have a poor customer relationship, it's a D lead, right? You might as well have like maybe it's worse than having a really cold, someone who maybe hadn't even thought about doing a project that solves the issue that your product does. Mm-hmm. I think most AEs should be thinking 30 to 40% of their number coming from their installed base.
Cool. I like that. I mean, there's mixed feelings around should you have an AM team to actually sell to your install base, but definitely having a quota for install base is massive.
Yeah, I mean, I am not a fan of the account management thing. I would not say I would never do it. It's just where I've been. I just don't think it would serve us well. Our CS team is compensated on, there's a customer survey after a new customer onboards that they have a little bonus tied to. They have a growth target, a team growth target, because I want them thinking about where the new products are going to fit in. And then they have a base salary.
Yeah, I like that comp model.
And renewal rate. Renewal rate is the other big driver of their comp plan. And it's a team renewal rate because our book of business in China doesn't renew as high as our enterprise business in the US. It just doesn't. So I don't want to penalize kind of the gal that's running the Chinese book of business. So it's kind of an aggregated team goal. And I want them to help each other too.
Yeah, it's very helpful when people go on vacation. I have one more question for you. So we've all been in the shoes of you have sales, they're selling to the wrong fit of customers, which you were saying, you really have to get on them. You have to show them what a successful customer looks like. But then you have your head of sales saying, I got a quota to hit. Like, come hell or high water, if these people are going to buy, I'm going to hit it. Because if I don't meet my number, I'm getting fired. So what do you say to this room of customer success execs, say that 3 times fast, how do you balance that, right? You can't say to your head of sales, well, I don't care, don't miss your quota if it's going to be the wrong fit of customers. I mean, it's probably the right thing for the business, but that's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where the alignment between sales and success in the CEO is pretty important. Because ultimately, I think if you're going to really stretch for a customer, the CEO should know about it and try to help make the call. Maybe if your Salesforce and Mark's not that involved in the day-to-day, it's Keith, the co-CEO, making the call or whatever, but we should have a conversation. We take on customers here and there that we're like, this is a real flyer, but I also believe that the customer should know the situation that they're getting themselves into and be transparent, because if you say, this is a stretch for us, I think it's a fit, I don't think it's fair to the customer to do a 3-year deal with them, for example. Like, maybe in that case, you really should do a 1-year deal and just be honest with them. And then you've got to decide whether or not you're going to take all the resources. And product's got to be aligned in that one, too.
Mm-hmm. But that's also a big risk for your company because it might take you a year to recoup your cost of sale.
Yeah.
And then it's like...
Yeah,
so.
I mean, you can negotiate maybe a 3-year deal where there's an opt-out after year one. But the more honest you are about where you are with a customer, I think the better it is, because there will be probably rocky roads, right? And it's just good to be straight up.
Yeah.
It's harder as you get bigger, right? Because it's, things are happening in the crevices, and it's hard for people to really know. But
Okay, that's a good point. Kickoff call. So we didn't really want to sell to you, but you forced our hand, so let's go. All right, do we have any questions from the audience? I mean, I could keep going talking to Linda forever. Okay, let's go. So we don't have another mic. Oh, we do have another mic.
Yeah, we have one there.
You surprised us.
Linda.
You have one right over here. Quick question on the topic of aligning CS and sales, which I love that topic. I mean, this question could probably apply to aligning CS and product as well, but what are your thoughts, or what has been your experience with establishing shared metrics between customer success and sales, like a net retention number or CLTV number or whatever that looks like? Like I see that as something that drives behavior that is good for the business. So what's been your experience in things that you've done that worked well, and then things that didn't work well?
Yeah, one of my big things is renewal rate. I really like looking at renewal rate because it is the purest number. It is the truthful number, right? Like, you only have 100% up for renewal, and how well are we doing against that? The other thing is to look at it in isolation of what those customers who are truly up for renewal in the period. And then there's the early renewal thing, which can, if you bring in and make the pot bigger, then you can kind of make the number be better, because you take a good renewal and you bring it in. So I like to look at both of those things. We do look at kind of lifetime value, and we also look at what is our growth rate going to be if we were never to sign a new customer but only grew on our install base? What would our value be on that? There are a lot of different ways to calculate that. So that's what I've used. The other thing I'll say too is, if in any of your businesses, if anybody's using MRR, I hate MRR with a passion. I think that's a VC metric or finance metric, but ARR is really you need customers to be committing at least annually, and that is the language more of your customers, like how much are they spending with you annually. Maybe operating-wise, they talk about, okay, I got my bill for $25K, but I think that's more of a financy thing.
And it totally, it's interesting when you have those B2B products that act like B2C products that are sort of $50, $60, $100 a month, selling to those types.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a whole different
totally
thing.
different
But
ballgame.
I know when I came to Helpshift, we had customers that were spending like $300 a year, and I was like, $500 a month if it's gaming, because you never know when a game is going to explode. But if they are not spending $1,000 a month, we were sort of like, I think they're just the wrong customer for us.
So you were talking about having sales kind of come in, and in my brain, I was trying to envision how would that look at my company, and I saw like fights and arguments and pandemonium breaking out. We work really hard to define who owns the customer, and who has what swim lanes. We're dealing with really large government contracts, so we want the customers to know who do they go to.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to envision if we were to ever do something like this, and you're right, our sales team is much larger than our success team, as has been at every company that I've been at. I'm trying to envision how this would work around ownership. And I know that theoretically everybody owns the customer, but the reality is if there's not one team or one person that owns the actual outcome, then really nobody tends to own it and things slip.
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you approach that?
My feeling is the AE owns the customer. And maybe controversial.
That's very controversial.
Yeah, I think
but-
you just made a lot of people in this room a little uncomfortable.
When we lose a customer or we don't, I'd look at the AE and go, what the heck? Because I think what happens is, I think the success team's mission in life is to make the customer have great outcomes. So, but customers can still have great outcomes and leave you because you don't have sort of the procurement and the executive alignment still there, where there's turnover and an executive who's like, oh, well, I use for us, like, I use Zendesk over there. So, we're just going to use it again. And maybe the success person's like, no, we love Helpshift. But they're like, no, I was on the advisory board over there. So if the AE isn't all over that person who's the ultimate buyer who they're going to negotiate the contract with and also be friendly with procurement, I feel like that is a huge miss, and we lose so many customers just across, my years for that lack of relationship. And I say, we need to be clear, commercial relationship with the AE, customer success outcomes with customer success, but still, if you think about the AE's customers are their leads, they should be invested. I also want our AEs to be at QBRs. It depends on how many, but our top customers, anybody spending over 100K with us or more, we have QBRs, and the AEs required to be there. And they don't have to prep. That's the thing. It's not their prep to do. That's the success org's prep. But they need to attend and just to stay closely connected to the outcome part of the equation. I know it's not for everyone, but I'm just a believer that, again, it kind of comes back to the law of numbers and how do you swarm an account with the more humans you can. And then there's also lots of scale things you can do, like webinars and all the tools that, ClientSuccess offers and those things to try to do more volume touch events. But when it comes down to those, really day-to-day managing the relationship, I think it kind of comes down to humans.
Well, I think you certainly provide a lot of great insight and perspective. And look, if nothing else, there's a lot of different ways to do customer success, to grow your existing customers. And I think it also depends a lot on the nature of your company, who you are as a CEO, and how you align your success and sales teams and other teams So thank you so much for bringing that perspective.
Thanks, everybody.